Good afternoon. Welcome to Options Tender. It's Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. Welcome, everybody. Another rip your face off rally. It's hard to have a bearish point of view with price constantly grinding to the upside. Such huge volatile moves. So we're going to try to go through multiple time frames here, and then we're going to focus on the daily time frame with QQQ, IWM, VIX, and maybe the DI if we have time there. We'll check out SMH to follow up on that. We're underwater on our puts, but I'm not afraid to tell you it's not out of the picture. We're at kind of a neutral point here, but it's the same game plan, just from higher levels. Okay, so the market could completely make a new low, or we could get a higher low here soon with perhaps CPI. We'll have to see how this catalyst affects the market. If you're new here, go down to that bottom right hand corner, hit that Options Center logo, and subscribe. We are doing this intraday about 1:44 Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to get these videos intraday, if you're interested, consider supporting the channel. It's 99 cents to be a YouTube member, supporter. All right, let's get into it. We have SPY on the monthly time frame. We have 2000 top, 2021 top. We keep talking about those because this is such a significant trend line. So we're forming some sort of top here. Do we get an eke out a new high? That's what we're trying to decipher. And you know, with price kind of repairing itself a little bit, we're in this really just a neutral stance, but we're gonna have to wait for a pullback to really even see, you know, what really happens here. So I might on lower time frames revisit this top here just so you can see we didn't do as much damage initially as this one, so we made some more damage, and I so that makes me cautious on making a new high at this point. But we're going to see what the pullback looks like. So we tested this consolidation area, 8 EMA. We're still bullish momentum to the upside on the monthly time frame with negative divergence into resistance. So we're just kind of pinching here in this zone where we're forming a top. But that doesn't help us for our trading. We got to get down to the lower time frames because unless you trade leaps, you know, it does no good when you're trading. We're looking at the big picture so we know where price is going, and eventually it's going to go down and go down big. But in the near term, what's happening? We had our rejection off this channel, the 2000 top. We broke down from the 8 EMA, the momentum indicator. We broke down from the 20-week moving average, the simple. We retested it and we're back above it. Now we're pinching in between the 8 EMA. So momentum technically is still down, but the trend is up. So this puts us in a dilemma here on the weekly time frame where you're neutral, you know, neutral, bullish, bearish. So sorry about that. Kids were leaving. So we're pinched here. We're in a dilemma. We're at a neutral point. All right. So not a whole lot to offer at that degree unless we get some sort of, if we get a follow through candle with CPI, clearly this is continuing. If we start to get some sort of doji by the end of the week, maybe this just ends up going back and forth for this week, and we pinch in between, and which would allow us to have an indecision candle, and we either continue or go lower. But I'm looking for us to go lower at this point. We're trying to figure out from where. And once we go lower, is it a higher low or a lower low? That's what we're trying to figure out. Let's check out this next board here. Here is the game plan. 520 is still super important because I think we're going to retest it. Okay, so do we get a push off this 8 EMA on the weekly time frame? Go back, test the 520, hold that. That would lead us into, my opinion, probably a ending diagonal to eke out a new high while the Qs get a new lower high and continue from there. If we break 520, we're looking for that 382. That would be our next major point of decision. And still, we can't erase the fact that this is only a 40% retracement to where you could get a new high, but I think it would be less likely at this point. I think the biggest thing as we go down to the lower time frames, let's go to the daily, is how we count the structure. You know, Elliott wave is very, I'm very skeptical on it. Yes, but it's difficult to trade off of, but it does give us a framework. Okay, it's speculation. So after this rising wedge, we broke down from it, back tested in the short term, and had a huge drop to the downside. Now, is this just a megaphone pattern? I took down the that downtrend line. It wasn't valid in the first place. I was kind of anticipating this being a reversal going into PPI. Now, the reason why I didn't think at the end of the day that we'd get a reversal is because we didn't tag our target, and so that was unfinished business. But we overstepped that now. So so now what? Now what is the question? Okay, so we had this gap support here, and clearly support in each of these areas. We're at that. We're at this consolidation. That's what we talked about. I talked about getting to the bottom of this consolidation here, right about, I think about 540. So perfect. Oh, we're at 540 right now. Gee. So perfect for SPY. But what really starts to mess with that structure is the Qs, and we'll go through that in just a little bit. But we're at the 20-day moving average. So that's our trend indicator on the daily. The trend is down over the 8 EMA for the month, for the daily time frame. So momentum, technically is starting to curl up. So we'll see what plays off of the 20 moving average. I have a kind of a suspicion that we're just going to pause here for today, and then we're going to maybe gap up from CPI, maybe a gap and crap, because we have the 50 right above us. And when we get to the Fibonacci's, you're going to see we're in no man's land. And so it's very rare just to not turn off of anything to do with Fibonacci's. Fibonacci's are super important in trading, in my opinion. So we're at the 20, we're getting a pause here, and we could look for about 544 being the 50-day moving average. So let's work this out on I started to play around this higher time frame to do our fibs and stuff like that, because it's really getting crunched up in a bunch of lines. A lot of stuff's happening on the lower time frame. We will go down there, but I think this is a little bit more clear for our pathways. So this initial move here, it could possibly be the end of wave 4 here, and that would mean that this is a 1. Notice we're in between the 50 and 60. So is this a zone? Does it have to make it there? No, there's no rule that says it has to hit the Fibonacci's. It's just unfinished business, and it happens to be right with the 50-day moving average. So we're looking for just a little bit higher. So this, if this is a wave 4 done complete at the 23.6, yes, I know I got underneath. This is a zone. Then we're looking for 1 to be here. We're looking for a pullback, probably significant, seeing how this volatile plays are going back and forth. Wouldn't make sense just to go straight up into some of these retracements, although, and I'll show you in just a second here, the wave 2 here, deep pullback, and then 3, 4, 5 up to make a new high. The other route, which I was a lot more confident yesterday that this was the case, now I'm back to neutral. So just going, just being honest with you. I know this is flip-flopping. This isn't, I don't have a crystal ball. This is, I play off of what is shown. So here's my other scenario. This is an A. We're getting a sharp B, and then we're looking for a C, not necessarily in any of these time frames. And this would be a potential wave 4 or a wave 1, where this leading diagonal or momentum increases the whole way here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all the way down. So we'll just have to have another decision point down here when we get to the 382, if we even get there. And whether this is a wave 4 or a initial impulse wave down for wave 1. And now going back to our 2021 top, and this is clearly corrective. We didn't even touch the 50. Notice how we didn't get there. So it just doesn't have to do these things. But the initial move was, clearly not like our initial move here. So if we consider this the first move here, didn't even get back up to the 50 before retracing down. That you can say is an A, B, and C. And that would be that bearish scenario that I was talking about. All right, looking really bullish, got up to the 62. That's a 62% retracement. I already measured it. So that would be our 62 if we got up to the 50. Just wanted to show how that could look, and notice when you're making a top, if this is more of the scenario that we're going to make a new high, this would be the bullish scenario. This would be the bearish scenario. This would be the bullish scenario. Notice we had very sharp pullback, but didn't make a new high. And then boom. So that was a wave 1 into a wave 2. So, I mean, honestly, we can get an 80% move to the upside. That would be insane, because this was really, really choppy correction here. And we didn't quite have that. We had, if you compare this to what we're doing now, that was much more damaging. Huge move. And then to see such a sharp move to the upside, I'm not sure that that's going to be comparable. But just notice how the volatility it insanely increased. Back to where we are. So if that were the case, notice how this is a much bigger move. If we were to do the same exact thing, then we'd probably make it all the way up here to 558 even before correcting. And then a sharp correction way back to the 520 here, if it were the same. I don't think so, but we'll be looking for the 62% retracement, and we'll go from there. Maybe we get that sharp move to 520. Of course, we'll get to neutral here, see how price goes. We get under 520. We let the puts work, and we get to 520. And we start to bounce off it. We let the calls work with put protection. So it's all about mind frame at a certain point. Spent a lot of time on here because those are still the two pathways. It's making it farther higher than I had anticipated. Okay. Now, looking at traditional technical analysis, you notice we were talking about the 544. Well, that takes us into just about these downtrends, depending on how much time is taking. So that's the zone for the downtrend, and also if this is some sort of channel going up to the downtrend. So we'll consider it if we start going higher into 544, where the 62% retracement is, and the 50-day moving average, and also this 200 moving average will be considered in that the downtrend. But a lot of technical damage, and this has to repair itself, okay? So we're still in a downtrend, lower highs, lower lows, and we're looking for a lower high or a lower low at this point. And so we're going to reverse off here sometime. And we're just looking at the area where it's going to be. Okay, so possible downtrend. So we'll have to change these. I mean, clearly we're already past that. Maybe we make it up to the channel top by then, okay? And then at this point, 520 still our point there. our pivot. Okay, so we get a retracement back into 520. It doesn't have to be 520, but that's just our flip-flop zone. Then we hold this, start to break out from the downtrend line. Now we're talking a confirmation that we're looking at a 1, wave 2, going into wave 3, and so on. With the purple, we already talked about the zones in the last video, so we're not going to go over the supports again. A reverse off here, get under 520, and we go lower. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time, but I want to adjust my arrow to where this could be, and I would draw this up a little bit different, but we have some touches here. We would consider this more of a channel if it's the channel that we go to. If we reverse off of now, we're going to make some sort of wedge. So right now I'm going to take the wedge away because we don't have anything yet, but potential channel. And we'll talk about some levels going straight down here, possibly the bottom of the channel here. Okay. And then a lot of people are going to consider this an ABC too. And like I said, if we go back to that 382, that makes it still possible for a 3-wave move. This is all initial wave for an ABC here for an A B into a C, and then we work our way up after that for a new high on SPY and a lower QQQ. But if we get down here, I'm telling you, it's just the probability of getting a new high is just a little bit lower there. All right. And here's what it would look like in these situations here. Let me, well, a little bit more. Okay. So we're considering this an A, B, and a C, and it's done. And now we're looking for an ABC into wave 1. However that might look. It might be into more of the, well, if we're going straight up, these arrows are going to change over and over right now. So I'm not going to mess around with them too much right now. You know, you saw it on the last diagram. If we get all the way up here to the 62% retracement, which seems more likely, you have the resistance, support, 62% retracement, 786 from this move here, and the 50-day moving average, 200-day moving average on the 65. It just seems the likely 544 is where it's at. So that will be our decision to go down from here, and then that 520 will be our flip-flop zone, our bull-bear zone, and I'm not going to worry about where that's projected yet. Okay, so now we're talking, this is possibly wave 1, we get up there, wave 2 down there, 3, blah blah blah. All right, now let's and the other scenario would be a hideous move all the way back down to 382. Oh yeah, also I want to address the short position I posted. That was an objective short here at the 50%. I knew that the 62% was probably the limit for that trade. I'm still in it. It's for tomorrow. I don't know that we'll even, that will probably just die. But just know that that was just one contract for me, you guys. I have swings on. Those are my major positions. I was more biased to the downside. So my swings are way out to the end of the month on the 30th. And so we'll see how those play out. I will likely, they're underwater, clearly. I will likely salvage them if we get above this zone here. If price gets above this zone, I will try to salvage what I have left and obviously take off my hedges up here and reposition for another short into this objective zone here, so which would be a downtrend line and confluence. Okay, so that's how you trade. You gotta keep the losers small, the short-term ones. Those are very risky, but the long-term, my swings, I'll take risk off and then look for new trades. All right. Going to Qs. Let's go to the daily time frame. All right, so the Qs, you had this trend line here. I took the highlight off of it because I want you to know that it can be traded around. It wasn't very strong because there was only 2 points at it anyway. And you see it was holding price for a while, got above it yesterday and held on. That should have been a good clue. And I honestly did not look at this as being an indecision, holding this 8 EMA. And that was what should have gave us a clue that this thing ripped into the 20 and now is at the downtrend line right now. So we'll see how we close. This doesn't change structure. I know that a lot of people play downtrends with, the structure really for this to repair itself, you have to get above 475 ultimately. So we're looking to still for some sort of pullback to happen and see what happens with that pullback before it goes and tests these areas where it'll have to repair itself to go higher. Now, I don't care whether this gets a new low or not. I'm still counting this as an impulse wave, as a 5-wave. We can get a 5-wave impulse move. This is a very impulsive move to the downside. Doesn't mean that there's zero chance it gets a new high. It just means it's less likely. Got the impulse, and I'll be looking for much further retracements, depending on what our next pullback looks like. This still needs to form a bullish structure. There's nothing here. So we'll be looking for the next pullback. I think that's, not sure we'll be looking for anything else here. Could go to the 65 real quick. And on the 65, we talked about this channel. So the channel we're starting to break out of, okay? And so, yes, that gives us something to trade off of. But does this change the actual trend? Not really. We still have a possible bear flag. And then if we get a new low, you'd be connecting these areas here. And also, I can draw a geometric line here too from these two tops. So maybe it gets up to there from these 2 points. I'll redraw that later. So there's lots of different things that coincides with the 200. So again, this can continue to go higher and drag the market with it, and maybe get up to the 200 moving average, still make a lower high, and then this will be a valid trend line. We'd end up taking this out of here. Trend lines move all the time. This is not looking impulsive, but we consider that a breakout. But you still have to be cautious, and you can play against this. Okay. So we're still looking at this as being a downtrend. You got to be super cautious. We're just in a neutral area right now. There's not a whole lot of, people could be very adamant at this point that it's bear and very adamant that it's bull. That's what makes this a market. We're looking at both directions at this point. So let's go on the daily for IWM. Holding back right here underneath the 8 EMA in the cluster here. This easily could be a ascending triangle where this breaks out tomorrow with CPI, and that could help drag up the market. It could break down here as a back test as well. So just like the Qs, it gets back over this trend line, and this trend line isn't as valid. It could trade around it. So make sure you add, if you're mostly in puts, make sure you have some calls going in, really short-term calls going into tomorrow just to protect your position. This still could just be back testing. Not a whole lot to offer here, holding this possible trend line. Could be just back testing. You got a good zone here, goes up a little further. You have a few points above. VIX. The VIX just back testing. It's at huge support again, it's kind of leaking down throughout time here, made a new low so far, and could be back testing this trend line, which I think so. I think it's forming a wedge here, and maybe it has a little bit further to go. We grind tomorrow to the upside, and we could lose another dollar here into the trend line, or even go a little bit further to wick back. So that's something we're testing. If it gets all the way down here, folks, I think we're going to all-time highs. Something's happening to go test the 50, but that's good support there as well. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is a breakout, and we're going to back test, and we're going to go higher. Not necessarily new highs. SMH. On the daily time frame. So we were looking for some sort of double bottom or so. Still could happen. Same thing. Now we're looking to go, we're into the 20 moving average as well. So we'll see how that works out. You have the 100 is kind of the same position where the 50-day moving average is on SPY. So you see we have this resistance right above us, former support. I could see that going just a little bit further into tomorrow, 3 or 4 points above, testing that 100-day. And just like when there's downtrend lines, when you're in a downtrend, I don't know if there's any examples on here, you can get above, like when it back tests the 20, it could stop right at the 20, or it can get above it and back below it. Happens all the time. It's a moving average, so just the price will move around it. You even consider it, if it gets above and falls below, that's still resistance. All right, gets above it, spikes above it, gets back below it. That's it, guys. Sorry I don't have definitive answers, but we're getting into another resistance zone. We should see a pullback. Nothing goes in a straight line before making a market structure to the upside, and that'd be decision point whether it goes further down. So we'll come into some objective shorts once again, and I'll post those for members when we get into those short zones. Other than that, some of our call plays are working out. Lulu is starting to move, like that one. And all right, Roku, couple of them. Anyway, have a wonderful day, you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.